All right, here we are in week 8, and this is the Purdue OWL presentation on MLA formatting and works cited and style. And this is according to the most recent edition of the MLA handbook, which is in its 9th publication. So let me share the screen here with you. As you see, MLA 9th edition formatting and style guide by Purdue OWL. So MLA stands for Modern Language Association. I don't know if I ever told you that. This formatting is used in different humanities disciplines. So they have a handy website, the MLA Style Center. It's style.mla.org, and it has lots of instruction and resources for writing and formatting academic papers. Purdue OWL bases their MLA information off what is on this website. I think they give some really good explanations, though, different than MLA does. So MLA regulates document format, in-text citations, and works cited list. The 9th edition, which was just published this spring, it was published in April of 2021, focuses on clarification, guidance, and expansion of MLA 8, which was done back in 2016, I think, or 2018. 2016. And it clarifies the core elements for works cited through calcification and expansion and meaning of these categories. So the 3 guiding principles: cite simple traits shared by most works, remember that there is more than one way to cite the same source, and make your documentation useful to readers. So I'm not going to tell you what this all covers. Always follow your instructor's guidelines. So yeah, that's the best thing. So there is a certain way that I want you to cite for this rhetorical analysis assignment, and I will go over that in class. So general format, and I do have a short formatting MLA formatting video for both Microsoft Word and Google Docs, but it should be typed or printed on a white 8.5 by 11-inch paper. You double space everything, use 12-point Times New Roman or similar font. Leave only 1 space after punctuation. I know some of you are got into the habit of having 2 spaces after your punctuation, but we only have, and I really don't care. I mean, this is really hair splitting, right? Set all margins to 1 inch on all sides, top, bottom, left, and right, and indent the first line of paragraphs 1/2 inch or tab once, 5 spaces. So an MLA style paper should have a header with page numbers located in the upper right-hand corner. Use italics for titles of container works and quotation marks for sources within containers. Place endnotes on a separate page before the list of works cited. We don't care about that because it's not applicable to us right now. The first page of an individually written MLA style paper will not have a title page unless it's a group project. Again, it's double spaced. And then you have a heading in the left-hand corner of the page where you list your name, your instructor's name, the course, and date. Center the paper title, use standard caps, but no underlining, italics, quote marks, or boldface. Then create a header in the upper right with your last name and page number. And I showed you in those videos how to actually do that in Microsoft Word, as well as as well as Google Docs. I'm laughing at this because it's funny. If you've ever read Pride and Prejudice, you'll know why it's funny. It's Charlotte Lucas, or if you've ever watched the movie, Charlotte Lucas. Pride Prejudice was by Jane Austen. She did not have her doctorate, but I just thought this is one of the characters from Pride and Prejudice. Okay, so you see this is the heading, and this is the header, and here the title is centered, and then all of the primary words are start with a capital letter. That's that. Formatting section headings, I'm going to skip over this since we don't use section headings in this class. All right, in-text citations. So this is the basics. When you are paraphrasing, summarizing, or quoting, you need to use an in-text citation so that you are not guilty of plagiarism. It's a brief reference in your text that indicates the source that you consulted, where you borrowed information. So it should direct readers to the entry in your works cited list for that source. It should be unobtrusive. So provide the citation information without interrupting your own text. And generally that in-text citation will be the author's last name or abbreviated title if you don't have a named author, with a page number enclosed in parentheses. Of course, for our purposes, we don't have page numbers, we just have authors. So we would use the author's name if we don't mention the author in the signal phrase. So here's an in-text example, and this is from their book. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a, quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, end quote. And then we have the page number in 263. Romantic poetry is characterized by the, quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, end quote. Here we have the author's name and the page number. Wordsworth extensively explored the role of emotion in the creative process, page 263. So you see here we have the quote from page 263. Again, a quote without the author's name in the signal phrase. So we use the author and page number, and then we have Wordsworth mentioned again, but this time it is a paraphrase. It is 263. Then the works cited entry would look like this. We have Wordsworth, William, last name, first name, the title of the book, the publication information, and the date it was published. That's the author page style of in-text citation. Then this walks you through the various types of citations that you can do. So if you have a print source with an author, if the essay provides a signal word or phrase, what I just said, usually the author's last name, the citation does not need to include that information as well. Humans have been described by Kenneth Burke as, quote, symbol-using animals. Humans have been described as, quote, symbol-using animals. So here we have the author's full name. So the citation only has the page number. I think you see the difference there. How to cite a work with no known author. We see so many global warming hotspots in North America, likely because this region has, quote, become more readily accessible climatic data and more comprehensive programs to monitor and study environmental change, end quote. And then we have here in parentheses, impact of global warming in quotation marks plus a page number. So what that means is, I need to go back. When we have no known author, then we use the title of the article or the essay that's being quoted. When the author and title are not enough, if two or more works by the same author have the same title, more information is needed to clearly reference a specific item on your work cited in square brackets after the title. Aha. So again, this will be when you get into more in-depth citation. So we'll skip some of these. We know who our authors are. Authors with the same last names. Somebody asked me this in class the last time we met in person. Although some medical ethicists claim that cloning will lead to designer children, R. Miller 12, others note that the advantages for medical research outweigh this consideration, A. Miller 46. So yes, we include the author's first initial if we have two authors with the same last names. And then work by work by multiple authors. You will list with et al, which means and others. Or if you have two authors, then you use the two last names. Multiple works by the same author. I'm going to skip through all of these because it's really okay. Sources without page numbers. That's relevant to us. So here's an in-text example. Disability activism should work toward creating a habitable space for all beings. And then Garland Thompson. See, we don't have any page numbers stuck in there. And then the works cited entry, we have Garland Thompson, Rosemarie, Habitable Worlds, Critical Disability Studies Symposium, February 2016, Purdue University, Indiana, address. So we know there are no pages because this was a speech that somebody gave or a talk that somebody gave. Formatting short quotations. We spoke about that. Formatting long quotations. If it's more than 4 lines of prose in your text, it needs to be offset as a block quotation. I went over that the last time we met. Poetry, I don't think we'll be quoting poetry, so I'm not going to talk about that. Adding and omitting words, again, I know I spoke about the ellipses and the brackets for adding and omitting. Here we go for works cited. This is the basics. So this is the MLA little handy dandy chart that they have of the various things that you need to include in your entry in the works list of works cited. These are the core elements that are given in a specific order. So they should be listed in the order in which they appear here. We have author, title, then it gets fuzzy after that, right? We have title of container, which could be a website, it could be the name of a publication, you name it. Other contributors would be like editors, translators, a person who uploaded something, version number. This is common with, well, sometimes it's common with newspapers, but also common with academic journals. So we'll be getting into this a little bit in our research unit. And then we have publisher, publication date, and location. So location here is different than publication or publishing info. So usually if we have a URL or a DOI or something like that, some kind of web address, that's the last thing that we put in our citation. So let's look at author first. The author is the primary creator of the work. You will begin your entry with the author's last name, followed by a comma, and then the rest of the name as presented in the work. Then you end that element with a period. And here we have examples below. The next is the title of the source. The title of the work. So books and websites should be in italics, and you see the examples here. So many books. Modern Feminism and Jewishness. Modernism. Okay, so this is a website and this is a book. Periodicals, such as journals, magazines, newspapers, TV episodes, songs, should all be in quotation marks. So we have the song here, Pretty Hurts by Beyonce. Here we have questions of transport, reading Primo Levi reading Dante in the Georgia Review. So this is an essay. Yeah, so the periodical itself will still be italicized, but the essay or a chapter or a newspaper article, that's in quotes. I don't like how this is written, actually. It's a little confusing. The periodical itself will still be italicized. Because we see this here, we have the title of an essay or an article that's in the Georgia Review. So this is in quotes, and then the publication that it's found in is placed in italics. Okay, next is the title of the container. A container is a work that contains another work. So in other words, with this previous thing, this is the title of the container. So this is the title of the work. This is the title of the container. So here we have Toward Meta Reading, The Future of the Book, edited by Jeffrey Nunberg. And this should be italicized. So Many Books should be italicized. Pretty Little Liars is the name of the show. That would be italicized. Hulu should be italicized. So, what is a container and what isn't a container? Well, sometimes Blackboard itself, as we saw in the overview video, is a container. When something like a lecture or a handout is published on it, it's going to be a container. It's not a container when it links you to another website. The website itself would be the container, not Blackboard. Blackboard wouldn't have anything in that citation. So Amazon is a container if you are quoting a customer review that's published on the site. However, it's not a container when you download an ebook from it. Likewise with Google, if it publishes an original artwork, for example, such as a Google Doodle, it would be a container. But when it displays snippets of text in the results page of a search, no, that's not a container, and you certainly wouldn't cite that. Social media like Facebook, when a user publishes or comments on a link or a post, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of thing. If a user publishes or comments on a link or a post, that would be a container. Facebook itself would be a container. But if you're clicking on a link, say to a news story or something like that, and it takes you to another website, it's not a container. So you wouldn't cite Facebook, only when it's a container. Remember a few weeks ago, I did the proofreading and editing presentation where we had Kofifi and we had Twitter. Twitter would be a container there, right? So moving on to the other contributors element. People or groups or organizations that contribute without being the primary creator. So here we have a translator. So translated by Lydia Cochran. Here we have a performance by Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then we have annotations with an introduction by Vera Navarro on the book Jacob's Room by Virginia Woolf. So hopefully you get that idea. The next element is version, indicating which of multiple versions of a work released in multiple forms. If a source is listed as an edition or version of a work, include that in your citation. So for an example here is the King James Version of the Bible. You would include that. Let's see what else. Oh, 7th edition of this book, Television, the Critical View. You would have 7th edition, and it's the number with the superscript, TH, and then edition is ED. And this is something I always have to look up. I can never remember if you shorten it or if you're supposed to write out edition. Oxford UP, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's see, Performance by Harrison Ford, that kind of thing. Okay. Oh, so director's cut. That's what we're getting. The version is the director's cut. All right. Next one is number, which indicates position in sequence. So if you have a source that's part of a numbered sequence, such as multi-volume books or a journal with both volume and issue numbers, those numbers must be listed in your citation. So you see here, we have volume, oops, I keep doing that. We have volume and then we have number. We have season and then we have episode. We have volume once again, right? Those are numbers. Okay. Then publisher is the next element. So the publisher is somebody who's primarily responsible for producing the work or making it available to the public. They will produce or distribute that source. And if there's more than one publisher and they are all relevant to your research, then you list them in your citation separated by a /, which I've never seen before. So here in this example, we have Carnegie Museum of Art as the publisher. And then here we have Oxford UP. UP is actually an abbreviation for University Press. Oxford UP, it used to be abbreviated Oxford, at one point it was Oxford University Press, completely written out. And then MLA was like, we need to shorten this. So then it was Oxford Univ Press. And then they've shortened it even further to Oxford UP. So when you see UP, you know that that is one of those colleges, one of those universities that is an academic publisher. Then 20th Century Fox, another type of publisher, the entity responsible for producing the work. That's followed by publication date. Oh, so much stuff. And I honestly do not expect you to remember it, but it is my duty to explain this to you. The publication date tells you when that version of the work was published. It could have been published on more than one date, such as an online version of an original source. So when the source has more than one date, use the date that's most relevant to your use of it. If you are reading the digital version of it, then you don't want to include the version that was published in 1952, for example, right? So here we have spring 2008. That was the publication date, right? 1999 publication date for this episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in season 4. Lastly, we have location. That specifies the work's location, such as the page range. That's what I was forgetting. Page range or the URL. So here we have the page range. So that comes after the publication date. PP is an abbreviation for pages. If you just have one page, then you don't even need to put P. Page range, and the dash from between pages 74 to 94, that's where we will find on Monday of last week in The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Hey, we've heard of her. Okay, let's look at this next one. There's a whole lot of stuff, and I think they forgot to put yeah. The Death of the Artist and the Birth of the Creative Entrepreneur. The Atlantic, 28th December 2014. Then this is the web address. The whole shebang. Note that we don't have https:// We do not use those. This is a separate entry. Bearden Romare, The Train, period, 1975. found at the Museum of Modern Art, New York. So if you went to a museum and you were discussing a painting by a certain artist and you wanted to cite it, or if you took a picture, if you were allowed to take pictures of a work of art in a museum, and you used it as a figure and then you needed to cite it in your works cited page, this is how it would be cited. And this would be the location, the Museum of Modern Art, New York. Okay, we got through all of that. Whew. Now, optional elements. Oof. Date of original publication. Again, this is stuff you don't need to memorize. Here it's talking about Ben Franklin, Emigration to America, which was written in 1782, but this person found it in the Faber Book of America, edited by Christopher Ricks in 1992 on pages 24 to 26. City of publication. This used to be something that was always included and now is not anymore. So again, they're optional, so why include them? Optional elements, URLs, DOIs, digital object identifier. I always wonder what that stood for. Helpful to have, not always necessary apparently. Date of access. Sometimes it's helpful to include the date of access for digital resources that you have accessed. Because if somebody goes to this website and they can't get this thing that this person cited, they can at least say, oh, well, it was there on the 23rd of July in 2013, but now in 2021, it's no longer appearing, right? Maybe they decided to get rid of that show. So, I mean, it happens, right? You go to a website and you're like, oh, 404 error, great, right? So, more optional elements. Oh, annotated bibliography. We just don't need to know about that yet. That'll come in English 102 if you take English 102. And then this is their final thing. The end. So thank you for sitting through that. If you have questions about citations and works cited, again, look for the things that we're going to work on in class. And if I haven't posted them by the weekend, please let me know and say, hey, I thought you were going to, because I may have forgotten. You know, I do have kind of a scattered brain at times. So hang in there, try your best. Don't panic about citing and don't panic about getting this work cited. At least try your best and I'll help you. Okay, so take care, everybody. Bye-bye.